I think I'll present a story which might be from Galapagos for you. The Dutch planning and urbanism is maybe not very easy to translate to different places in Europe. I'm part of a tradition which is already for 200 years old. It was founded by Napoleon, and it is the royal architect or the national architect who first built all the ministries and all the palaces of the kings. But in the last 20 years it became a board, not of one person but of 3 persons. And so we have an institute consisting of a national architect, landscape architect and urbanist. And we are a free think tank that can advise the national government and its partners. We can take all kinds of issues on spatial impact, on developments in the Netherlands. And we have much to say, but we don't have any power, so we have nothing to tell. So our organization, our institute is about soft power. We can only influence by convincing and seducing the national government. But if they think we have bad ideas or that it's unconvincing, well, okay, drop the idea. We advise actually on 3 levels. The most practical level is that there's projects which have a kind of national status because the national government is involved, which are mostly on palaces and ministries, but also highway infrastructures, stations, water dams, etc. And then there I'm part of the board to make sure they reach the ambitions set up front. We do a lot of research by design, which we explore a topic together with other partners, and based on that we draw a few lessons that we share with everyone in publications, and we do competitions on that level. And the most abstract strategic level is that we also advise on policy level. So there's a new national plan in the making, and I'll later explain we forgot a bit about that. So we set the standard of how a 21st century national plan should look like. But part of this research by design is also that we organize competitions on things that we think are a big issue in our societies. So we started with a competition on housing for refugees. We did one on Who Cares, which is about neighborhoods where people grow old and we need more healthcare and we need more support for the social structures in these residential districts. We had a Brood en Spelen, which is about the countryside, to find new ways for both recreate in the countryside and producing food. So about making new deals between farmers and citizens. And why I'm here is for the competition that we are running now called Panorama Lokaal. And it's about city fringes, about post-war neighborhoods, post-war suburbs and their countryside neighbor. And of course the Netherlands is maybe very famous for its urbanism and its planning. We used to have big control about our development. We almost tamed it. And we think that the traditional Mondriaan really look a lot like our Dutch cities, but that we would like to take the latest work of Mondriaan, the Victory Boogie Woogie, as a much more dynamic and much more mixed-use environment as a kind of standard. So we're looking forward to get these developments in our existing fabrics. But our history of planning in the post-war period is very much like this. We also did research by design, but it was done by guys in a white coat, almost like a lab. They tested 3 options for how to make urban plans for regions. Should we concentrate them all in the city? Should we spread them out? Or should we find a compromise and build new towns on a certain distance? The experts in the white coats found that this was the best solution, so every Dutch region got this solution. That's how we did it. So it was state-driven suburbanization. So for a long time we thought that we were the world champions in urbanism, but no longer. We were proven wrong in the past 20, 30 years because the economy sometimes knew better what was the best place for a central business district. Sometimes nature knew better how to make natural areas. So our most biodiverse natural area in the Netherlands is only land reclaimed 50 years ago from the sea. So nature turned it into a gem. And we have become so prosperous and so wealthy that we think of change as something that is threatening in general. If you look up the papers, everybody sees change as a threat. Well, we as a board think we should embrace change and make it an opportunity to make life even better. So if you look at the challenges that the Netherlands face, then of course we also want to meet the Paris Agreement. We have a very steep housing challenge. We need to build 1 million homes in the next 2 decades because our population grows and because we live with fewer people in a house. And we have to deal with climate change. But we think if we do this on a technical way, in an engineering mode, then this becomes a must. Then we have to do this task. And no one will be enthusiastic and supportive about it. So we think that these driving forces of change, we need to enable them to make life much better. So to sketch a perspective of the Netherlands that a lot of Dutchmen will dream of, that they think, wow, I want to contribute to that country or I want to live in that place. And that's what we made with our panorama, which is literally a panorama, a circle Photoshop collage of the Netherlands in 2050. And it shows a kind of a perspective of a Netherlands that is still very recognizable as it looks today, but it operates completely different because it's climate neutral and we have these extra houses and it's adapted to climate change. We see these 4 big forces as an engine behind change. So it is about uniting regions, uniting people to have these forces work for you. And so we do not treat them separately. We think these very abstract challenges of making the Paris agreements, they all land in a region. There they all come together, and there we can use these, reaching the Paris agreements suddenly becomes very concrete. It means we have 1,000 windmills, or we have to build a few housing districts. So we toured last year, gave more than 100 presentations, and this panorama was at more than 25 sites where people used it to have a collective debate about the future of their city or their region or their institute. And also it was embraced by the national government as a way to start to formulate a new vision for the next generation. And of course it was part of the national debate in papers, and there was even a version for Kids Week that kids at primary school were discussing their future and what they could do about the country what was their future, is their future. But of course it also raised the question, how do we translate all these very nice ambitions into reality? And that's why we organized this 4th competition. So we launched the competition and we were searching for these post-war neighborhoods, which are not very much at the central attention of anyone. They're doing okay, they're getting slightly worse every year. They have an aging population. In general, they don't have severe problems, but we think that the challenges ahead of our country are very acute in these areas and that we can use these challenges to renew them and to make them popular again. So we were wondering, is it still right at these places? Is it still a place where the heart beats? And we think, yes, indeed, there are lots of opportunities to make these neighborhoods which are okay, which are not very sexy, but also not too boring. They can have a great future. They also look like this. So there's a lot of empty garage boxes and backsides and some landscape elements. Not too bad, not too good either. This competition, we initiated it, and we first collected national government parties to support us. So lots of ministries are joining the competition, they funded it, and also the National Corporation of Housing Corporations supported us. And then together we try to seek for local partners. And the central question of the competition is if the countryside, just outside the suburbs, if they could help each other. Because now they were a bit back to back. And for example, there's a few motors behind the change that could help. How to make sustainable agriculture, how to make a climate adaptive landscape, but also a climate adaptive suburb. Can the suburb and the energy transition be helped by the countryside? Could the energy be produced there? Could extra houses help the suburb or not? And could it help to solve issues of identity, of water management, about rejuvenation, about isolating the buildings in a good way? So that was the launch of the competition, and it actually consists of 2 steps. So we started last summer, we launched it, and we will finish in May. And the first competition was about which cities, which suburbs want to join. And the second part of the competition is in the selected suburbs, which design teams want to join. So the first round, we got around 14 entries that fulfilled everything, and they had to build local coalitions. So it was a city with a housing corporation, sometimes a developer, sometimes local citizens, and they brought very different neighborhoods. And we made a selection of 7 sites that are in the total competition. The smallest has only 250 houses. It's really a neighborhood. And the biggest has like 25,000 inhabitants. So it's really a city district. So we have, and some are of the 60s, some are of the 70s, some are of the 80s. And the idea of the competition is not only to solve the issues ahead for these 7 neighborhoods, but also to learn lessons to apply for the rest of the Netherlands. So for these 7 sites, we had also meetings with those local parties to really define together what's actually the question of the competition, how to make it a sharp one. So they were asked to form a coalition, not only of designers, but also to seek other experts in different challenges to do an entry. And so this is one of the sites in Emmen on the east. It's a very classical 70s neighborhood, with classic 70s homes, with a lot of public space, a lot of green, but a very bad orientation towards it, and no appropriation of these spaces, and not a very large variety. In these talks with the local community, with the local team, we used also a lot of instruments like placemats that we already proposed a lot of questions and ideas, and we gathered analysis, and then we asked a group of stakeholders to help us sharpen the questions through these placemats. So that was also an easy way with groups to communicate and to collect all the information and to make sure that we understood their questions right. And then end of December, we launched the competition for designers to form those teams, and they were able to do their entry mid-January. And yesterday we had a huge selection day to select all those entries. And it was very interesting. We got 147 entries for the 7 sites. So it was very, very exciting for us. How many entries will we get? We were looking for 3 teams for each site, so we needed 21 teams. So we were having nightmares of, do we have enough teams? It's a very good period at the moment in the Netherlands for having a lot of work. And the teams are very, very big mix. There are, of course, different design backgrounds, architects, landscape architects and urbanists working together. There are very young teams, there are very experienced teams. There's teams that work with economists, with developers, with social experts. So we try to make a mix of teams and to set them out for the next month to work. And then in May, we hope to harvest all their ideas. And of course, there will be kind of winners. And we hope that the winning teams can definitely execute some of their plans and ideas. But maybe the biggest part of the harvest is also that we gain new insights for how to face those challenges and to get a more attention and popularity for these post-war neighborhoods. Thank you.